I was just about to show you how to do this Super Turbo Ninja Advanced Logger Tree Cutting technique, but just as I was getting here into position to do it, I started to realize I don't think that technique's going to work well on these trees. So I'm going to show you a different Super Turbo Ninja Advanced Logger Tree Cutting technique to get these two trees down. This one has a heavy lean over my road. Eventually it's going to rot off and land in my road. I don't want it in my road. I want it to be out of my road. I want them both to go that way. Since this one is leaning so hard that way, it would be difficult to send it over with wedges. I was thinking, since this one is leaning the right way, I could get this one to pull this one over. In the direction I want them to go, these limbs up here are likely to catch it. If it is able to push through those, they will likely redirect it and get it hung up in this madrone tree. If I was only cutting this tree by itself, I might be able to steer it through there. When this one hits those limbs up there, it needs to have some momentum to push through them. But at the same time, that's when it's going to need to start pulling on this one. I don't know if it can do both at the same time. The alternative would be to send them that way instead. Not only does this one have a heavy lean that way, it also has a heavy lean that way. We can still get that one to pull it that way. Well, we can try. I put the choker as high as I could on the tree that's getting pulled on, the pull-E. I put it lower on the tree that'll do the pulling, the puller. That gives it more leverage to pull on this tree. When this one's lower, it gives it more leverage to pull with. What could possibly go wrong here? A lot of things. I'll tell you what could go wrong here. One potential problem, this tree, the one that's doing the pulling, is smaller than the tree it's pulling on. It's not as heavy. It's also not as tall. This tree has a heavy lean and most of the weight of the branches are on the opposite side. Even though I decided to send it out that way where there are fewer branches in the way, there are still branches for it to push through. It'll start hitting those branches, which will slow it down some at about the time it needs to have momentum to pull this one over. Since these are both lined up this way, if I was going to go the original direction, that would be a more direct way for this to pull on that one. But since these are offset going that way, when the line tightens up, it's going to have a tendency to want to pull them like this. Instead of the first one going down through this hole, it might cause it to pull this way into this cedar and slow it down too much or get it hung up. If that happens, then this will be a video about how to get ourselves out of a big pickle. And having the chain so low on the pulling tree could help lift it up off the stump, and the long choker I have on here to give it more momentum could also lead to problems. But without doing that, I don't know if this lighter tree will be able to pull over that heavier tree. So I'm taking the risk. I guess I should move my vehicle, eh? I'm putting the wedges in to keep the tree from tipping back and pinching the saw. Before I cut this one, send them both over, I want to make extra sure I have a good escape path here. Not just regular sure on this one, but extra sure on this one. One thing that could possibly happen, once this gets momentum and that line tightens up, if it can't pull the other one over, there's a chance it could break off the stump and do something like this, which means the butt end of this would shoot out that way. When this starts going over, when that line tightens up, I don't want to be anywhere near either of these trees. I want to be way over there. So I got to make sure I have a good escape path, preferably behind a solid object like a tree. Possible trip hazard. Get that out of here. I could run all the way down, jump in the creek if I wanted to. Now the moment of truth. Find out if this is going to be a video about how to do this, or a video about how not to do this, or a video about how to get ourselves out of whatever pickle we end up getting ourselves into. I would say there's a moderate to low chance of this working the way I want it to. It's not a high probability situation. There are so many things that could go wrong here. This is a technique we call Super Turbo Ninja Logger Tree Falling Epic Fail. That's not quite the way that was supposed to go. At this time, I would like to adjust the probabilities of this going the way I want it to from moderate to low down to low to improbable. What went wrong here? On the one left standing, I may have left too much of a hinge. I could have cut it more, but I didn't want to cut too much. I didn't want it tipping back the wrong way. That would have caused problems. On the other stump, I could have left more hinge. It wasn't falling as fast as I want it to, so I got a little bit aggressive, cutting too much hinge off. It looks like I'm standing really close, but I'm actually farther away than it looks, behind the protection of another tree. This tree that was doing the pulling has been dead for 1.5 years. It's really dried out. It just wasn't very heavy. I was trying to get more momentum on it, but I should have stopped cutting a little bit sooner. That's why it broke off the stump and did what it did. Also, hooking that chain on that close to the stump was a contributor. Putting the line so low on the pulling tree caused it to lift up on the pulling tree, which did not help the situation. Since it was a smaller tree pulling on such a heavy tree, I put a long choker on it so the tree would have time to get momentum before it tightened up. But I should have put a shorter choker on it because it tightened up too late when the tree was already breaking off the stump. Another contributing factor, this tree browned out this fall. It hasn't had as long to dry out. I'm sure it has more moisture in it. It's more heavy. Even though it's still growing mushrooms, I'm surprised it grew mushrooms this fast. If I was to try this again, I would put the chain up higher on the pulling tree. I would cut more hinge off of this one. I would leave more hinge on that one. But what I'm afraid would happen then is it would have ended up like this. It would have been stuck like that. Although that wouldn't be any worse than the situation we have here. Maybe it's best that it worked out this way. That way I can point out all the things you shouldn't do and show you all the bad things that could happen if you don't do the right things. We'll just pretend I did this on purpose. Yeah, this turned out just the way I planned. I meant to do that. It's one thing to get ourselves into a pickle. It's another thing to get ourselves out of a pickle. Why didn't I just pull it down with the tractor to begin with? The whole point was to do a video about showing you how to do that technique. I knew there was a chance that it might go just right. I thought it would look really good on camera, watching one tree go down, then pull the other tree down right behind it. Right through the hole where I planned it. Didn't quite work that way. But to all the men out there, if you were to show up one day and pull something like this off, have it go the way it's supposed to, one tree goes down, pulls the other tree with it, they land right where they're supposed to go, that would make the ladies swoon. And ladies, if you were to pull something off like that, the men are probably already swooning because they're men, but if they saw you do something like that, that would definitely get their attention. Well, I guess there won't be any swooning going on out here today. But seriously, this is a technique you shouldn't do unless you really know what you're doing. I knew what I was doing, I just didn't pull it off well. This is not the kind of thing an arborist would do. This is not the kind of thing you should do in somebody's yard next to a house. This would be something someone would do in a place like this, out in the woods. So if something goes wrong, it's not going to be a tragedy as long as you get yourself out of the way. That's a key. Get yourself way out of the way. I didn't want to be anywhere near that when that chain tightened up. Now that that's safely down out of the way, let's take a look at those stumps, see what went wrong. That isn't too bad of a hinge, not super thick, but maybe still too thick for that small, lighter tree to pull over. For those who don't know, the hinge is the strip of wood you leave uncut in between your two cuts. As the tree falls, this hinge controls the tree until it eventually breaks off. And the other stump, that's our biggest problem right there. I wanted to leave more hinge on this side because I knew when that chain tightened up, it's going to pull it this way. That extra hinge over here will help resist that. But I got way too aggressive over here. I'd rather have a thin hinge over here coming out more like this. I just cut way too much off on that last cut. Bad rookie mistake. It's almost like somebody's been spending their time fooling around making YouTube videos and they haven't been cutting trees down lately. They're getting out of practice, getting a little rusty. But with all that said, when I pulled that tree over with the tractor, I had to pull really hard to get it to come over. I don't think that small tree would have been able to pull that tree over. I think this whole thing was doomed from the beginning. These two trees were just not good candidates for this technique. Maybe if I would have cut this hinge off more, it would have been able to do it, but then there would be a risk of this tree tipping back the wrong way. And cutting this one off so much was the worst mistake of all. The split-second decision to make those last 3 trigger pulls may have sabotaged this whole thing. This is a super dangerous place to be to get that chain out. I could reach in and get that, but I don't want to put any body part in between there. So I'm going to go around, unhook it from this side where there are no pinch points. Unhook from the uphill side. Logs are less likely to roll uphill than they are downhill. From here over is the danger zone. That log could roll this way. The top of it is all jammed up with big limbs on it. It's probably not going to roll. But when I grab my chain, I'm not going to go in there more than 1 step to where I can back out pretty quick if I have to. You have to be very careful around round objects on slopes. Let's just forget any of this ever happened. I'll show you a video clip of a time when this actually worked out well. Use this as an opportunity to show you a little trick. Sometimes this works, sometimes when it doesn't, it can get you into a pickle. But we have the tools here to get us out of pickles. Some people saw that bit flash by in that video and they said, "Hey, wait, what was that? What did you just do right there?" Then I was going to do a video about it, but somehow the footage for that must have deleted itself because I don't know what happened to it. All I had left was that little bit that ended up in the video. Then I had to wait, I had to wait a while to find another couple trees to do it with, or at least make an attempt. I was joking around a little bit earlier when I said it's probably better that this happened this way, but when I think about it, maybe it actually is better. Sometimes you learn more from making mistakes than you do from everything going just right. It's usually best if you can learn from other people's mistakes instead of learning from your own. All of you get the luxury of having that situation here. Why is it I always end up with the raw end of the deal? I have to do the work, I have to do all the walking, I have to be the one to do all the mess ups on camera. You guys just sit and watch. How about you guys make the videos and I sit and watch for a while? That sounds like a good deal. At least for the next couple days, I'm going to take the weekend off. If anybody asks, you didn't see anything. I'll put a link to some more tree cutting and chainsaw techniques up here somewhere. Most of those worked out well. Maybe if you watch enough of those, you'll forget about this.